At 2:03 a.m., my phone buzzed beside the bed. It was my wife, Liana. Her message said, "Don't wait for me tonight." I stared at those words for several seconds. She had told me earlier that she was meeting friends, but she had never said she would stay out this late. For months, Liana had been distant, secretive, and strangely protective of her phone. I had asked questions, but she always accused me of being insecure. That night, however, I finally understood something. I wasn't angry because she was out late. I was tired of waiting for someone who had stopped choosing me. I opened my laptop and looked at a photograph I had received earlier that evening. It showed Liana outside a downtown restaurant with another man, Evan. His arm was around her waist, and she was smiling at him. The picture had been sent by my friend Marcus, who happened to pass the restaurant while driving home. I hadn't confronted Liana because I wanted to hear the truth directly from her. Now her message felt completely different. She wasn't simply staying out late. She was telling me not to wait because she already had someone else keeping her company. I finally stopped making excuses for her. I replied to her message with one photograph. Underneath it I wrote, "No one is waiting for you anymore." Then I placed my phone on the table. I didn't threaten her, insult Evan, or send a dozen angry messages. I simply wanted her to understand that I had seen enough. Almost immediately, the phone began vibrating. Liana called once, twice, then repeatedly. I didn't answer. 7 minutes later, I heard tires screech outside our house. The front door opened, and Liana came running inside. She looked terrified. "Where did you get that picture?" she demanded. I looked at her calmly and said, "Does it matter?" Liana stared at me, unable to speak. Then she said Evan was only a friend. I pointed toward the photograph and asked whether friends normally held each other like that after midnight. She started crying and admitted they had been talking for several months. She insisted their relationship had never become physical. I told her that wasn't the only betrayal. She had hidden him, lied about their meetings, and made me feel foolish for trusting her. She stepped closer and begged me to listen. I told her I had listened for months. Every time she said nothing was happening, I believed her. Tonight, I finally believed the evidence. She sat on the couch and covered her face. After several minutes, Liana admitted that she had developed feelings for Evan. She said he made her feel appreciated when our marriage had become routine. I asked why she never told me she was unhappy. She said she was afraid I would leave her. I almost laughed because that was exactly what her secrecy had caused. I told her she could have asked for counseling, separation, or even a divorce. Instead, she wanted to keep our marriage while exploring another relationship. She whispered that she hadn't meant for things to go this far. I answered, "But they did." Liana begged me not to end our marriage that night. She promised she would never speak to Evan again. I told her promises weren't enough anymore. I had already spent months hearing promises while watching her behavior tell another story. She asked whether I wanted her to leave. I said she could stay until we decided what came next, but things would never return to normal simply because she had come running home. She started crying harder. I told her the photograph wasn't revenge. It was a boundary. I wasn't going to wait at home while my wife decided whether another man was worth choosing over me. The next morning, I contacted an attorney. I wasn't certain whether I wanted divorce, but I needed to understand my options. Liana watched me make the call and realized I was serious. She asked whether there was another woman. I told her no. I wasn't leaving because someone else had appeared. I was considering leaving because trust had disappeared. Later that afternoon, Liana called Evan and ended their relationship while I sat in another room. I didn't ask to hear the conversation. If she was truly ending it, that had to be her choice. I didn't want a marriage maintained through surveillance or fear. We eventually agreed to counseling. During our first session, Liana admitted she had become addicted to Evan's attention. She said she liked feeling admired and exciting again. I admitted that I had become distracted by work and stopped making enough effort to connect with her. Our marriage had problems long before Evan appeared. But I told her that loneliness explained her feelings. It didn't excuse her decisions. She accepted that. For the first time, we discussed our marriage without accusations or excuses. We talked about boundaries, communication, and the damage caused by secrecy. Slowly, we began understanding how far apart we had become. Months passed, and rebuilding trust was harder than either of us expected. Liana stopped communicating with Evan and became more open about everything. I stopped checking her phone because I didn't want surveillance to become our new normal. Some days were hopeful. Other days, the photograph returned to my mind and reminded me how easily trust could disappear. One evening, Liana asked whether I regretted sending that message. I told her I regretted needing to send it, but I didn't regret finally drawing a line. She nodded and said she understood. She knew she had almost lost something she once assumed would always be waiting. A year later, Liana and I were still together, but our marriage was different. We had learned that love couldn't survive on assumptions. We spoke honestly about problems before resentment could turn into secrecy. Liana sometimes apologized for that night, and I reminded her that what mattered was what we did afterward. I still remembered her message, "Don't wait for me tonight." Back then, she thought I would remain at home, waiting whenever she decided to return. Instead, I sent one photograph and told her the truth. No one was waiting for her anymore. Not because I stopped caring, but because I finally stopped accepting less than honesty.